So Beethoven's Fidelio is about a woman, Leah, who disguises herself to infiltrate the prison where she believes her husband has been wrongfully incarcerated. And when Dan and I started conceiving this production for Heartbeat, we wondered how would we do the Prisoner's Chorus. It's a moment of beautiful humanity. Beethoven's music just soars. And I wondered, could we reach out to a prison choir? And sure enough, Dan knew a conductor.
Yeah, one of my colleagues in grad school, her name is Amanda Weber. She started a program in Minnesota called Voices of Hope. And she was able to connect us to a few other choir directors.
And now we're connected with 6 choirs in Iowa, Ohio, Minnesota, and Kansas.
We are having each of these choirs record a section.
So eventually our sound designer, Kate, will stitch together these separate recordings into one track. Our production will feature more than 100 incarcerated singers and more than 70 volunteer outside singers who come into the prisons on a weekly basis and rehearse with the incarcerated singers. Dan and I were really fortunate enough to visit 4 of these prison choir rehearsals. Oakdale Prison was the first correctional facility I had ever gone to.
Yeah,
same for Dan. In London, Ohio. But we saw over the front door something about he who enters leaves not hope behind, which felt so appropriate for Fidelio.
Exactly.
And in that rehearsal, the guys had just received new choir t-shirts, and their choir is called Ubuntu. Yeah. And they were really proud to put them on, and they sang for a while, and we videoed their rehearsal, and then we started telling them a little bit more about our production. And one of the prisoners, who was nicknamed Frederick Douglass because he had this great white hair, he raised his hand and he said, I think we should take off our t-shirts and go back to our uniform blues because we need to represent all incarcerated men. And Dan and I were just so impressed by that selflessness and that artistic kind of understanding of the project and generosity.
I talked to one of the men afterwards, and he asked me what music I listened to, and I just told him a little bit classical music, and he said, do you listen to Bach? And I said, oh yeah, I love Bach. And he rolls up his shirt sleeve, and there's a big tattoo of Bach on his arm.
I mean, we heard and witnessed amazing musicianship in these prisons, like beautiful voices.
Yep. Yes, beautiful voices.
8-part harmony.
They just connect with it, and they make it a point. I think they in every piece they do, they invest as much as possible.
It really changed our perspective. I know it changed mine on what it means to be incarcerated, what freedom means. We left these prisons really, I think, struck by the power of making music and reminded of how beautiful it is to come together and harmonize together. You know, sometimes we take it for granted as opera makers, and we're thrilled that their presence will be felt here in New York.